All right, sir. I appreciate your time because I know who knows what's going to happen in the next, 8 minutes down there on Mint Street. But a couple of years ago, the Panthers, a few years ago, maybe more than a couple, basically took an entire draft and spent it on the defensive side of the ball to retool the defense. They are back at the defensive trough, and they spent all day there yesterday. Not only, let's start with the re-signing of Jaycee Horn, one of those guys, as you have said before, one of those cornerbacks. He is now the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. Talk to me about that deal, why it's great, even though for obvious reasons it's great.
Yeah, well, okay, just to circle back, because you're a professional and you're prepping for your show instead of farting around on social media, on Blue Sky and Twitter, you may not have been aware that Miles Sanders was just released by the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So Miles was a total pro. He handled a weird situation with grace that a lot of people wouldn't have after being supplanted by Chuba Hubbard. But Miles was a pro coming down the stretch, scored the game winner in Atlanta in overtime, and, kind of showed people that he's still got a little something. I would imagine he'll get some interest now that people are interested in running backs again. But you asked me about defense, and yes, as I said to somebody here in the building last night, right before I left, sometime around sunset, it's almost like they got tired of being last in the league in defense. They wanted to do something different and at least get up to 31. No, what they did yesterday, signing Jaycee Horn is kind of a statement of intent. I think he pairs with Derrick Brown, and those two become kind of the conscience of this place now that Shaq Thompson's gone.
Yeah.
All that core of defensive talent that arrived in the post-Rivera years, they have to lead this bunch forward. And it's going to be a very different-looking group moving forward, and those two are going to have to lead it. And I think they're up to it. I think they each have their own styles. They're different human beings. But the one thing I will say about Jaycee Horn is he is probably the last person on this roster that I think would ever be affected by money, because he grew up in an NFL household.
Yeah.
He always had it. It's not the motivating factor for him. It is for some people, but that dude just grinds. We posted a story on Panthers.com yesterday, headlined "Why the Panthers Extended Jaycee Horn," and it's basically a treatise on work ethic. Dave Canales flat out said the way he worked to get himself ready last season to play almost a full season was something to see, and I want everybody to see it. So they view him as not only a lockdown corner or somebody who can take care of one side of the field, but as somebody who's going to be kind of the face of this thing for the next generation.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that really, as I was doing my research on it, that really jumped out to me. That he is a worker and a grinder on top of the fact that he's an incredible player. So, even more reason to pay him. Obviously, everybody is worried that last year was the first year he played a full season. Hopefully, all the injuries are behind him. And I'm not saying I don't think those injuries were related to each other. I think it was like separate things and things out of his control. Hopefully, he'll stay healthy, and that lockdown corner spot is definitely taken care of. A couple of defensive tackles with varying, strengths and weaknesses. Strength of one is the pass rush. Strength of the other is run stuffing. They added an outside linebacker who can get to the quarterback as well. So let me, if you want to dig into the players, that's cool. But I want to ask a question, and maybe you can answer all at once. Does this open the door to change their philosophy about which way they're going to go when they pick at number 8? Will it still be a defensive player, in your opinion, or have they covered themselves enough to open it up to best player?
I think you've always got to do best player, but best player is, best player is always, there's a sliding scale, and need play, there's a thumb on the scale sometimes, and I think, I would suggest that there's probably still a need, especially for pass rusher, in what is supposed to be a very deep draft class for them. I think they need another one of those or two. I think you need a couple more bodies. I think you mentioned the 2 defensive tackles, and we also wrote about that this morning at Panthers.com.
Yes, you did.
Adding a Tershawn Wharton and a Bobby Brown, it was their prerogative. Yeah, you see what I did there. But it allows them, they've now got 6 to 8 legitimate NFL defensive linemen to compete for 6 roster spots. And last year, they just threw the doors open. They were looking for people who were available, whether they were qualified or willing or able. It was just, can you get here? I mean, they were playing guys who, aren't in the league anymore after playing for the worst run defense in the NFL. So they've got options now. They're deep. And having those guys should make A'Shawn Robinson better, should make Derrick Brown better, because A'Shawn Robinson was gassed. He played 250 more snaps last year than he played the year before, just out of necessity, and he had nothing left at the end of the season. But to his credit, he stayed out there and continued to battle. So I think they've added in that depth up front. They still need pass rusher. They still, even with Mike Jackson signing last night, they still need cornerback depth. They still need, a lot of stuff. There are only 2 safeties on the roster, so they're going to have to go get some of those guys. I would still anticipate this is a defense-heavy draft. It's probably not a defense-exclusively draft just because there's other stuff. I mean, again, with Miles Sanders getting cut this afternoon, they need another running back behind Chuba Hubbard, since Jonathan Brooks is going to miss most, if not all, of this season. I think they need depth at tight end. They need receivers. I mean, they need a lot of stuff. They were, after all, a 5-12 football team, but they're moving in that direction to clear some of that up a little bit.
Darin Gantt is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. He is, of course, from Panthers.com. We asked the old guy if the wide receiver from Arizona is sitting there at number 8. Can you see that being the pick?
Maybe. Depends on what else happens. I mean, I would think that, here's the thing that I'm struggling with on Bryce Young and the idea of a number 1 receiver. People talk about that a lot as if it's the most pressing need. But I go back to something that the owner said the night he was drafted, which was, Bryce's ability to see the field, distribute, et cetera, allows us to get away with a lesser grade of wide receiver. And after 23, we thought, you sure about that? But when you watched last December, when he was throwing to old Adam Thielen and David Moore, who's the journeyman's journeyman and always pulls a shift when you need him to, but is not somebody that's high on the priority list, and a couple of rookies who were in and out of the lineup, it's like, hey, he had a point. I mean, it kind of proved him right in a very circuitous manner. But I think that, would they love to have DK Metcalf, for instance? His was the name that was on everybody's lips earlier in this week. Would they love to have a DK Metcalf out there to play fetch with? Sure, a lot of people would. Is it worth spending $30 million and not having about 3 or 4 of these dudes on defense that you really, really needed to elevate a defense that set an NFL all-time record for points allowed? Maybe not. So
right.
I think they will get to that point where that'll become more of a priority. I just don't think they're there right now. I don't think that's the best expenditure of funds. So if they find another pass rusher in the next couple of weeks, if something happens, if they make a move in some regard to further bolster that defense, could I see it? Maybe, but at the same time, I still think a lot of the work has still got to be done. I mean, you know how it is with pass rushers. If you've got any talent at all, you're going in the first round and probably in the first half of the first round.
Right.
So I think you got to get those guys when you have the opportunity, because they're so expensive to try to find later.
Yeah, I would not spend free agent dollars on a wide receiver at all. I think you could, you don't even have to draft one high, because there's always there will be. I promise we could do this. We could probably go back and do it retroactively. There will be several Pro Bowl wide receivers that are drafted after the first round in this draft.
Yeah,
that's just the way the way it works out.
And you know what else there will be? There will be disgruntled wide receivers next year who will want to change the scenery and will demand a trade. And Bryce Young and the Panthers may be glad to gruntle them here in lovely Charlotte, North Carolina, where the sky's always blue.
Perfect. Well, the sky's always teal, Darin. And, of course, right down the street, you've got the ACC tournament. I have heard that for Florida State, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech, Cal tonight, that good seats are available.
My brothers went to NC State, and so did a couple of my nephews, and I was like, if you guys want to come to Charlotte, you can crash at the house. We have plenty of room for everybody.
Yep.
Wait, what? What do you mean you're not coming to Charlotte?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really even more egregious that they're not there, especially in this year's ACC. Is Charlotte FC at home this week?
I have no idea. You want to talk to me about Kershaw and Wharton? I can talk to you about Kershaw. I have no idea what's going on outside my tunnel. Are you insane?
I'm just wondering. I mean, we just saw a 1-0 loss to Inter Miami, so tough.
Yeah, that
tough
was disappointing. But
I like him.
No, I am admittedly in the dark about everything that happens farther away than about 6 inches from my nose this week. So. If it's happening in the world outside NFL free agency frenzy, trademark, #Panthers.com, I don't really know.
All right, check out the free agency tracker at Panthers.com. As I received all my information, found out that we have was it Bobby Brown has a snake?
Who was it? Was it one of it? No, I think it was maybe it was Bobby Brown that has a snake.
Somebody's got a snake. Yeah, somebody's got a pet snake. That's all I know. I saw that.
Snake. Another guy catches extremely large fish. So if you've got unusually large animals, I want to know about it. That's the story I want to tell.
Darin Gantt, Panthers.com. At Darin Gantt on Twitter, Blue Sky everywhere, at 2 T's for extra talent. Sir, pleasure as always. Best to you. Keep it batting down.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, it was Trayvon Merrick that has the snake.
The safety.
Who we didn't even get to.
He has a snake. Hey, look, we had 2 snakes when I was in college, but that was a long time ago. All right, man, I'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
You got it. Darin Gantt here on the Adam Gold Show.